The film starts with a romantic moment of a couple. After finishing the sacks, both of them take a pill, and the guy goes out for some work. As soon as the man goes out, the lady feels that the surroundings around her are changing. Bushes are growing on the wall. Then she sees a half-cut old woman there. On the other hand, the guy finds himself in a desert as soon as he comes out of the lift. Here, this old woman is now completely visible. Both of them scream, looking at each other. With their screams and the man's painful death after falling from a height, the scene shifts to two paramedics. This is Steve, and this is Steve's friend, Dennis. After receiving a call, both of them enter a house in connection with a case. Here, a lady in a trance shows them the way inside. This lady had no idea that her husband was lying dead. The daughter is also unconscious and intoxicated. Steve and Dennis investigate. So they find a strange sword with the help of which this guy might have been killed. There is something strange written on the walls. He asks that lady what happened here. To this, she says that she heard strong winds and something in French. Steve finds drugs here with a French coin girl, and also with the dead man a sachet of a strange drug that is apparently new to the market. Steve and Dennis get the hell out of here. Once the job is finished, Steve takes a nap and sees some scary flashes. Next, we get to know Steve and Dennis. Steve has no family. Due to not getting a good wife, he is spending his life only through alcohol, and he is also a victim of depression. Meanwhile, Dennis is also troubled with his family life. His daughter became pregnant at the age of 18, while wife Tara is tired of handling the entire responsibility of the house alone, and there are frequent fights between the two. But Steve says that only lucky people get family, so you should be happy. While Dennis says no, being single is best. That means both of them like each other's life. The next day, Steve and Dennis arrive at a theme park in New Orleans for their next case, where they find a completely burnt body who also had the door latch in his hand. The police officer also gives them another packet of evidence Synchronic drug. This was the same packet which was recovered near the man's body in the earlier case. In the next scene, Steve and Dennis receive a call, i.e., a case, and they reach the same flat which was shown at the beginning of the film. That is, the flat of that lady and her partner. Steve and Dennis discover that the lady has been bitten by a snake, whereas the flat is on the second floor. The shocking thing was that this lady was bitten by an eastern diamondback rattlesnake, which became extinct centuries ago. Everyone is absolutely shocked to hear this. Here they receive another Synchronic packet. On the other hand, the lady's partner's body is found in a very bad condition in the lift. Then the scene shifts and we see Steve at the doctor, where the doctor tells him that your pineal gland is much younger than your age, and this is quite unique because this happens only in teenagers. After this happiness, the doctor leaves Steve in shock. Actually, he says that you have a brain tumor and you have only 6 weeks left. Steve is shocked to hear this. He felt as if everything was about to end. He wanted to share this pain with his friend Dennis because apart from him, Steve had no one in this world. But he doesn't do so because Dennis was caught up in his own problems. He himself was troubled by his own family, so Steve keeps this pain to himself. But a storm had already come in Dennis's life. Actually, Dennis's daughter Brianna had gone to a party with her friends last night, but she had not returned home yet. When Dennis investigates, he learns that Brianna's friend, who was last seen in a chair, had also taken the same drug. Dennis tells this to Steve. Steve understands that all this is definitely happening because of this drug. So he goes to the store from where the drugs were being supplied and buys all the sachets of the drugs. Here a man comes and tries to buy this drug from Steve by paying more money, but Steve refuses. Meanwhile, Dennis's wife Dana asks Dennis for a divorce. Here, when Steve reaches home, he sees the same man at his house. Fearing jail and Steve, the man reveals the entire secret of the Synchronic drug. This man tells that my name is Dr. Kermani, and I have made that drug. Kermani tells that he used to make illegal drugs legal and sell them in the market. But before the drug authorities could know about it, some packets of this drug had been sold in the market. This is a special drug through which a person goes into the past for some time. That means time travel. Actually, this drug interferes with the human pineal gland, with the help of which humans are able to travel back in time for a few seconds. But those whose pineal gland is young, they go physically, and those whose it is not, they go mentally. That is, only their soul goes to the past. After hearing all this, Steve solves the mystery of all the murders. He understands that the couple had traveled to the time of the tribal people after consuming these pills, where they saw an old tribal woman and both of them screamed after seeing each other, and there in the jungle she might have been bitten by a snake while her husband might have fallen because he was at a height in the lift, and the other person with the burnt body might have reached a house on fire where his body burnt before he could come back. And while trying to open the doorknob remained in his hand. While in the husband-wife case, the husband might have gone to the time period of pirates, where he might have been killed with that old sword due to intrusion or mistake. And that sword too belonged to those pirates. That means whatever is with you when you go to the past will also come with you to the present. And maybe Brianna also went to the past through this pill. But for some reason she could not come back. But to understand why it didn't happen, it was necessary for Steve to take that pill. So Steve takes a pill and suddenly the area around him starts changing. And Steve reaches a forest. Steve was able to physically reach this forest because his pineal gland was still young. While Steve is trying to believe that he is in the past, a Spanish warrior catches his eye. But before he can attack Steve, Steve returns to his own time. Steve tries again, and this time he starts recording a video on the camera. And this time Steve finds himself in the Ice Age. He was about to die from the arrows when Steve returns to his time. But to understand its rules, Steve takes the pill once at the same location, and once again reaches the same location, i.e. Ice Age. Now Steve is understanding some rules of this pill, like if the pill is taken at the same location, then one would reach the same past time. But this location is not in your hand, and this will be the same place where you have lived sometime. Apart from this, after taking the pills, if you travel to the past, you remain there only for 7 minutes, and as soon as the time is over, you come back to your time. The third rule is that whatever you touch directly in the past will also come with you to the present, like that sword, coin, and door knocker. Now Steve wanted to find Brianna, i.e. Dennis's daughter, but he could not understand how she got stuck in the past. So Steve takes another pill and travels to the past with his dog, to see if a living thing can be brought into the past with you. After taking the pill, Steve reaches the 18th century and his dog is also with him. This was Steve's house. But now someone else lived here who attacked Steve and drove him out of the house, and Steve gets stuck here. Here he understands that if you are not present at the location where you have been visible in the past, then you will be stuck in the past. Steve comes home again at night and returns to his time. But by mistake, his dog was left there. Here, through the conversation between Dennis and Tara, the mystery of the coffins that Dennis was seeing also gets solved. In fact, due to the soil being washed away in the water, the coffins of Steve's sister and parents were washed away in the water, out of which Steve's sister's grave was looted by robbers and left as it was, and hence Steve was in depression. But now he wanted to save Brianna. So he sits on the same chair from where Brianna disappeared, takes a pill, and is transported to a time when people believed in witchcraft. Here, Steve calls out to Brianna, which catches the attention of African tribesmen. These people were about to catch Steve and kill him. But then Steve goes back to his time and once again escapes death. Steve realizes that Brianna hasn't disappeared, and he must seek Dennis's help. Steve now had the last 2 pills left with which he could save Brianna. So Steve reaches out to Dennis and tells him the whole story about this drug. Dennis is saddened and realizes that Steve was right when he said that family is only for the lucky ones. Dennis says that he will go to save his daughter, but Steve says, "My pineal gland is young, I will have to do this." Dennis then shows him the large rock where Brianna often sat. There were also some marks on the stone, which were probably symbols of Brianna being trapped in the past. Both of them sit here and talk, and Dennis says that it is really a matter of good fortune to have a family. Steve says that we should live in the present and be happy with what we have. Saying this, Steve swallows the pill and reaches the past. There was devastation all around here. Maybe Steve has reached the time of the Second World War. There was firing all around here. Steve saves himself by entering a bunker, but unfortunately, he gets shot in the leg. Steve cannot find Brianna, but Brianna finds Steve. Steve tells Brianna about the drug and gives her the last remaining pill because he felt he wouldn't be able to reach the stone. But Brianna takes Steve to the stone. Brianna takes that tablet. But then a soldier comes there and, considering Steve as an enemy, asks him to beg for his life. Steve understood that if he did not do this, Brianna would also be killed. So he moves forward, and before he reaches Brianna, the time runs out, and Steve gets stuck there. Meanwhile, Brianna returns, and Dennis sees Steve's shadow fade away. This meant that Steve was never going to come back. Dennis realizes the huge sacrifice Steve made for his family. Here Steve sits on the same stone, and the movie ends here. Friends, do you think Steve will ever come back? Or will he die due to his illness? Please do let us know in the comment section. If you liked the video, then please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and press the bell icon. See you in the next video.